Good morning. It's lovely and sunny this morning here in Edinburgh. It's a bit chilly, but I think it's going to warm up as long as it stays sunny, which is good because yesterday it was very cool and quite autumnal. Morning. So yeah, it's much brighter today and sunny, so hopefully that continues. I'll just hang on a moment and see if anybody else jumps on the live. Hope you're having a good morning so far. I've got my cup of coffee and I've got a piece of cake this morning. So if you haven't watched these little videos before, the idea is that before coronavirus lockdown and things, I used to host a weekly knit night on a Wednesday, and I would always bake for the knit night, and then there would be some leftover cake, and on a Thursday morning I would have some of the cake for my breakfast. So I've been trying to carry on with that, even though the knit night has now gone online. But I didn't do any baking this week. My husband did. So he has made a fruit cake, which is really a tea loaf. Good morning. So you have all the dried fruit and you soak it in tea overnight. And it's from the Biro book. This is my copy, which is absolutely falling to pieces. Yeah, it's here. They call it brack. I just always call it tea loaf. Yeah, you soak the fruit and the sugar in tea overnight, and then the next day you just chuck all the other ingredients in and put it in the oven. And it's a bit like it's just easy because you've done half of it already, the night before. So it's quite a good one. And you can have it with butter or you can just have it plain. So it's got so much fruit and everything in it. It always comes out well. So, Kirsty's asking about my necklace. I made this at a Stephen West workshop that I did years ago at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. He did a workshop about knitted jewellery. So we made like an I-cord and then you picked up stitches. You just kind of made it up as you went along. And then I found these little, like applique, I think they come from Nepal, patches, and sewed them on. But that was like a year after I made it. So that's what that's about. Yeah, so hope your week is going okay. I haven't done a huge amount of knitting this week. I finished my Coraline jumper, my second version that I was making, but I can't show it to you just now because it's blocking in the other room. It's still wet. I was hoping it might be dry this morning, but it wasn't. And I'm also still working on this hat that I showed you last week. So this is the original. It's called Skew Lines hat, and it was in Knit Now in, I think, December last year. And it's got these little welts, which are like a little tuck stitch. So I have the rights back to this pattern now, and I'm just working up another version. So this one is done in yarn from Third Vault Yarns. And what I'm trying to do with this one is just change the way that the decreases are done on the sides. So on this one you can see the sides were done, I did them in garter stitch. But what I would actually like is for the welts to continue across the whole thing. And I have a bit more time now to kind of play around with it. But the decreasing with the welts to continue the pattern, because the welts are like alternating, and to keep the pattern of it with the decreases is a little bit tricky. So I've already ripped this back about 3 times trying different things, and I'm gonna have to rip back what I've got here, but I think I've worked it out. Sometimes if I just leave things and my brain is sort of processing it in the background, then it'll come to me, or another idea will come to me of how I might fix it. It might not be the right solution, but it sort of leads me on the right tracks to work it out. So I might have another go at that later. But yeah, as I say, I have ripped this bit out about 3 times so far. So that's still on the go. And then one of my preview knitters for the Coraline jumper has been doing one in 2 colours, which is really gorgeous. And so I thought, because I'd finished my other one, I would cast on a new one, also in 2 colours. So I have just made a start on this yesterday. So I've got pink and then this neutral. And what I did was I just started with this is going to be like the main colour. And then because it's a garter stitch in the round, I'm using the pink when I need to do a purl round. But what I discovered quite quickly was that I couldn't do that with the short rows on the back of the neck to raise the back. And I couldn't do that in the 2 colours. So I've just done that in the main colour, and then joined in the pink when I had the first round of this where you slip stitches, and then I purled in the pink. So I've got this lovely pink, which is Wensleydale yarn. I think it was dyed by, what's she called, Juno Fibre Arts. She stopped dyeing quite a while ago, and I had 2 skeins of this. And I can't remember what. I've used some of this obviously for something, I can't remember what. And so I've got that left of that one, and then I've got a whole other skein. And then the neutral it's been discontinued. It's by Wendy Yarns, and it was called Ramsdale. And it's quite a loosely plied yarn. And I have 3 balls of this. They're 50-gram balls, which won't be enough, but I've managed to find somebody online who's still got some for sale. So I think if it works out, which I think it's going to, I will order some more. Yeah, so that is it's not got much of a twist to it. I don't know how well you can see that. It's quite loosely plied. And the Wensleydale will have lovely drape because it's that long wool fleece. So I think that'll work well, because this pattern, it's really the thing that you really want from the yarn is some drape. When you block it, you want it to hang nicely, as well as good stitch definition. So I think that's going to come out nicely. So I will probably work on that a little bit. Oh, thanks, Kirsty. I've had these 2 yarns sitting for ages next to each other, and I wanted to use them for something, and I never quite had the right thing. Probably because I knew I didn't really have a lot of it, but now I've discovered some more of this Ramsdale online. I think I've got enough to do a jumper, and I'll just do the cropped version. So, and I can always make the sleeves a little bit shorter if I don't have enough. Or the other thing I could do actually is just add in some more pink yarn. It doesn't have to be the same. I've got some purple that's quite similar. I thought maybe even if I do the sleeves as like a colour block, because it's the background colour, it won't be quite as noticeable if you just change that out. As if you change the main colour, that would be more noticeable. But so we'll see. But as I say, yeah, my grey Coraline second sample is away blocking, and last week I was showing you all the stitch markers that I had in the sleeves to keep track of the sleeve decreases, because I always have to make sleeves longer because I've got long arms. And so I wrote a blog post, well, I published it on Monday there, about sleeves, about the different shapes of sleeves. So last week's blog post that's on my website, so it's maddieharveydesigns.com, was all about how to lengthen or shorten a sleeve while keeping it all in proportion. Because if you just add or take away a bit at the wrist, you might find it doesn't fit very well. Because if I just do that, I will have the width of the cuff will end up here, and that won't fit my arm. So you have to kind of put the extra rows in or take them away proportionally across the length of the sleeve. So that was last week's blog post. This week's blog post is about changing the shape of a sleeve if you don't like what's in the pattern. So with Cora Lynn, it's got quite classic kind of tapered sleeves. And I've explained over there on the blog post how to change it if you wanted to make a wider sleeve, just all the way down. Or if you wanted to do something where it was wider, maybe down to the elbows. If you find that your upper arm is a similar circumference from the top to the bottom, you know, from your shoulder to your elbow, you might want to make it so that the sleeve remained the same circumference down to your elbow, and then you put all the decreases through the forearm area. So there's an explanation of how you would work that out. I've also put in an explanation of how to make a wider sleeve and then have it kind of cinch in at the cuff. So this is a prototype jumper that I've been working on for doing like a sort of scrappy yarn jumper, and I'm not sure how well you can see that, but the sleeve basically is the same circumference all the way. There's no decreasing until you get to just before the cuff, and then there's a lot of decreasing before you get in here. So that creates a kind of, not exactly like a balloon sleeve, but a similar effect without it being too balloony. So there's an explanation of that one, and there's also an explanation of how to make a balloon sleeve if you want it to really to be narrowish here and then come out at the cuff. I see a lot of sweaters like that just now. I think it's a trend, but I know a lot of people don't like that. So equally, you could just take that out and just knit a more tapered sleeve. And there's great, I suppose you would call them knitting calculators online where you put in your stitch count. So if you wanted to change the sleeve, you could put the stitch count in for the top of the sleeve here, and the stitch count in that you want for around the cuff, and then you tell it how many rows you want to knit, and you plug all that in, and then it will tell you where to put your decreases. So, you know, work 1 decrease round and then do 4 plain rounds and so on. And it will work all that out for you, which is really clever. So there's a link to that in the blog post too. So go over and have a look if you're interested in adjusting sleeves. It's something I find myself having to do quite a lot, as I say, because I've got broad shoulders and long arms. So, and also, you know, if you do like the body of a pattern but the sleeves are putting you off, that it's not difficult really to adjust it. So don't let that put you off a pattern. It's one of these areas where you can get a bit creative actually with your own knitting, which is nice. So if you are interested, that's over on the blog on my website, which is maddieharveydesigns.com, and I will let you get on with your Thursday morning. As I say, it's lovely and sunny here in Edinburgh. Hopefully that continues, and I will see you next week. I'll be back at 10 o'clock on Instagram Live. Okay, bye.